Hello reception, story time again. Mrs. Garing tells me that you've been learning about whales, and reading stories about whales. So I found a story in my collection at home and it's called The Snail and the Whale. Some of you might have read it before because it's by a very popular author called Julia Donaldson, which I know we all love. The Snail and the Whale. This is a tale of a tiny snail and a great big grey-blue humpback whale. This is a rock as black as soot, and this is a snail with an itchy foot. The sea snail slithered all over the rock and gazed at the sea and the ships in the dock. And as she gazed, she sniffed and sighed, "The sea is deep and the world is wide. How I long to sail," said the tiny snail. And there's the little snail looking out into the big wide world. Can you spot anything else in the picture? Any other animals? These are the other snails in the flock, who all stuck tight to the smooth black rock, and said to the snail with the itchy foot, "Be quiet, don't wriggle, sit still, stay put." But the tiny sea snail sighed and sniffed, then cried, "I've got it, I'll hitch a lift." This is the trail of the tiny snail, a silvery trail that looped and curled and said, "Lift wanted around the world." So there's all the snail's friends. And there the snail is slithering away. And he's written the note to say that he wants a lift. This is the whale who came one night when the tide was high and the stars were bright. A humpback whale, immensely long, who sang to the snail a wonderful song of shimmering ice and coral caves and shooting stars and enormous waves. And this is the tale of the humpback whale. He held it out of the starlit sea and said to the snail, "Come sail with me." There he is, look at the size of him. And there's the snail getting onto his tail. This is the sea, so wild and free, that carried the whale and the snail on his tail to towering icebergs and far-off lands. Can you see the snail? Can you find him? With fiery mountains and golden sands. So they've gone from ice to the hot jungle with volcanoes and monkeys. These are the waves that arched and crashed, that foamed and frolicked and sprayed and splashed the tiny snail on the tiny whale. These are the caves beneath the waves, where stripy fish with feathery fins and sharks with hideous toothy grins swam round the whale and the snail on his tail. So there, look at the big wave going over the top of his tail. And there the snail is again. Look at the grins on those sharks' faces. They look like they're getting up to mischief. This is the sky so vast and high, sometimes sunny and blue and warm, sometimes filled with a thunderstorm. With zigzag lightning, flashing and frightening, the tiny snail on the tiny whale. Oh, not on the tiny whale, on the tail of the whale. And there they are. Scary. And she gazed at the sky, the sea, the land, the waves and the caves and the golden sand. She gazed and gazed, amazed by it all. And she said to the whale, I feel so small. How much there is to see in the world. But then came the day the whale lost his way. These are the speedboats running a race, zigging and zooming all over the place, upsetting the whale with their ear-splitting roar, making him swim too close to the shore. Oh no. So there's all the boats. Look what's happened to the whale. This is the tide slipping away, and this is the whale lying beached in a bay. Quick, off the sand, back to the sea, cried the snail. I can't move on land. I'm too big, moaned the whale. The snail felt helpless and terribly small. Then, I've got it, she cried, and started to crawl. I must not fail, said the tiny snail. So the whale's got stuck on the sand. This is the bell on the school in the bay, ringing the children in from their play. This is the teacher holding her chalk, telling the class, sit straight, don't talk. This is the board as black as soot, and this is the snail with the itchy foot. A snail, a snail! The teacher turns pale. Look, say the children, it's leaving a trail. This is the trail of the tiny snail, a silvery trail saying, save the whale! So there's the children at playtime and the teacher. And the snail's written a message on the board to help come and save the whale. These are the children running from school, fetching the firemen digging a pool, squirting and spraying to keep the whale cool. So there they are all helping the whale save him. This is the tide coming into the bay, and these are the villagers shouting, hooray! As the whale and the snail travel safely away. So the seas come in, the tides come in, so they can finally swim away. Back to the dock and the flock on the rock, who said, how time's flown, and haven't you grown? And the whale and the snail told their wonderful tale of shimmering ice and coral caves and shooting stars and enormous waves, and of how the snail, so small and frail, with her looping, curling, silvery trail, saved the life of the humpback whale. Then the humpback whale held out his tail, and on crawled snail after snail after snail. Look, they're all getting on now. And they sang to the sea as they all set sail on the tail of the grey, blue humpback whale. There they go. Wonder where they're going to go. That was a lovely story. See you soon.